Now, in the previous lecture, in the previous lecture, we talked about the submarine P-75 project, right? We talked at great length as to how what is the fleet strength of India in respect to submarines, how the evolution of submarines took place in India, how submarines helped India in 1971 war with Pakistan and all, right? Now today we have taken INS Vikrant. INS means Indian Naval Ship. Okay? Indian Naval Ship. Like for Britain, it is called HMS. HMS. It's a very trivial information, but it's sometimes important and it helps us in remembering things. Like it is HMS. It is called Her Majesty's ship. Her Majesty's ship. Because there's a monarchy in Britain and a very unfortunate incident has taken place today itself, that the Queen of England has passed away. Queen of Great Britain has passed away basically. Okay, so now there's a king, so it will become His Majesty's ship, right? So it is called Her Majesty's ship in Britain. In India it is called INS, Indian Naval Ship. Indian Naval Ship. Okay, now that was a very trivial information. Why we are talking about this? Because this mighty ship INS Vikrant, this mighty ship, it is called a carrier. It is called an carrier, or such type of ships are called aircraft carriers. See, there are various other ships in Navy also. Like this is a carrier, that means it carries aircrafts. What it carries? It carries aircraft in the form of fighter jets, in form of helicopters and all, right? Because you can clearly see that whole ship is only what? It is what? A runway. It is a runway. And below the ship, below this deck, a lot of ships are stuffed. Oh, a lot of aeroplanes are stuffed. So it is what? It is a carrier. It is an aircraft carrier. Okay, there are other ships as well, like frigates, destroyers, frigates and destroyers, and then other like submarines. Okay, so the whole Navy's capability depends on these ships. So this ship provides, why do we have an aircraft carrier in the Navy for the first place? Because these ships provide air attack capability in very remote regions as well, in the high seas. Like if we have a battle with China, okay, so we need to fly our planes there, but the fact is the fighter planes do not have very long range capabilities, except the bombers. The bombers are those planes which have very long range capabilities, and they can fly for a very long distance and then drop bombs. Okay, but aircraft or fighter jets do not have very long range capabilities. They have limited range capabilities, right? And they are primarily made for dogfights basically, or to engage the enemy aircraft, or to target specific installations, specific targets. Okay? So bombers, there are two kind of, like now we are talking about various kind of aircrafts, right? We are not talking about ships. So one is bomber and the other is fighter plane. The bomber is not having very high maneuverable capability. The bombers do not have the capacity of a fighter jet. Bombers are bigger in size, and bombers are for a very specific purpose of dropping bomb without coming to the radar. But fighter jets, on the other hand, like the one you can see here which is taking off, fighter jets are smaller in size, very fast. They can drop bombs and they can fire ammunitions with very high precision and very fast speed, and they can return back to the base. Okay, so this provides us with a very long range capability, that this ship, if this ship is sent to some other country, so we are basically sending our fighter jets to other country along with the runway, right? Along with the runway. So this ship is called aircraft carrier, the ship which carries aircraft, right? And this runway, as you can see, this is the runway where it is used when the ships are landing, and this is the runway it is used when ships are taking off. Right? You can see it's slightly lifted up. Okay, So it gives the required push to the fighter jet. Now, aircraft carrier, there was a lot of fanfare and celebration in India. Prime Minister Modi himself went to inaugurate the commissioning of this INS Vikrant into the Indian Navy, and it has been pushed by the whole world media as India's dominance into the design and development, indigenous design and development of aircraft carriers, which is a huge what we can see achievement for the Navy and the Indian domestic manufacturing as well. Very important point about this is like 75% of content is indigenous and 100% of design is indigenous. It was designed by Naval Design Bureau and DRDO, right? It was actually launched in 2013. It was launched in 2013. It got started manufacturing in 2009 itself, but it was launched in the seas for sea trials in 2013, and since then, like, the sea trials have been going in 2020 also, in 2021 also sea trials were going. Now the ship is ready. Now we can say the ship is ready for its deployment. That is why it has been commissioned in the Indian Navy. The Navy is sure that it can use the ship. The ship is usable, the ship is good for Navy, and now they have commissioned this ship into service, right? So very important points about this is like there's a huge push for indigenization through this, and the capability to design and manufacture completely indigenous. Okay, despite the fact that the ship has engines which are provided by General Electric, which is a US company, but still the ship is mostly indigenous. 75% of its components or manufacturing is Indian, but 25% is of course outsourced, right? But the very important fact is that it has now been commissioned into Indian Navy. So today in last lecture we saw a lot at great detail. We talked at great detail about submarines, how submarines got inducted into Indian Navy. Now we are going to talk about the carrier. Okay. Now we have two carriers. Okay. We have two carriers now. The Indian Navy has two carriers. The first one is it is called Vikrant class. Sorry, Vikrant class. It is INS Vikrant. Okay. Its origin is in India itself. The second one is Kyiv class. Kyiv is actually the capital of Ukraine, right? So Kyiv class, but since this ship was taken from Russia, right, and it was inducted into Indian Navy in 2013, right? So it is what Kyiv class. The first one is Vikrant class, and the ship is INS Vikrant itself. The second is Kyiv class that we have taken or bought from Russia, and it is INS Vikramaditya R33 and R11, right? So let's look at a bit of history, because history is how we understand the development, right? So INS Vikrant, India was one of the first countries in Asia post the World War II which had the capability, which had the aircraft carrier for itself, and it was INS Vikrant back then. INS Vikrant was inducted in 1961. What happened was INS Vikrant was actually a British ship. It was under the British manufacturing facility in 1950s, but after like the World War One, after the World War One, since it was already in construction, after the World War One, it was not needed for British, so they put it on sale. India purchased it, and in 1961, it was inducted into Indian Navy. In 1961, it provided a great help to Indian Navy in countering the Pakistan in 1971 war. Okay, like the submarines helped. What these bodies did was they blocked the access of Pakistan, basically Karachi, to outside world. They blocked it. Okay, so these ships were very important during the 1971 war. Okay, so it was inducted into Indian Navy in 1961. It helped a great deal in 1971 war, but it started aging, and in 1997 it was decommissioned. In 1997 it was decommissioned. After that, it was still kept as a museum at the Vishakhapatnam port, right? where it was functioning as a museum. Later in 2013, this was dismantled and the scrap was sold, right? And the scrap was sold. After that, we inducted INS Virat in 1987, right? So INS Virat was also inducted into services, but it started also aging. Then we purchased this INS Vikramaditya. INS Vikramaditya was purchased from Russia. It is a Kiev class, right? And then we have it is now functioning. It is in service, and now the one which we have designed, manufactured, and launched, INS Vikrant, and it is again having the same name or the legendary INS Vikrant that we had, which helped us winning the war of 1971 with Pakistan. Okay. I hope you understood a bit of history as to how these ships came into being, and now that shows that India has already had a very great capability of operating the carrier ships. Okay, now let's look at a bit about the INS Vikrant itself. The first one is motto. Motto is Jayema Sam Yuddhi Sprada. Jayema Sam Yuddhi Sprada, which is taken from Rig Veda, which actually means I conquer the one who fights with me. The one who fights with me. That is the motto of INS Vikrant. And moreover, the Vikrant is actually sun, which Vikrant is the meaning of the Vikrant is synonym of sun, right? So Vikrant basically means the as mighty as sun, right? So that is how its name comes. Designed and manufactured in Navy's Warship Design Bureau and designed and manufactured at Cochin Shipyard Limited, CSL. Okay, it's a public sector unit company, and the steel for this INS Vikrant was manufactured by Steel Authority of India Limited. Okay, and it is a ship grade steel which was manufactured in combination by DRDO and the Steel Authority of India Limited, right? Okay, so the length of the ship is 262.5 meters, more than of 2 football fields, and height is 61.6 meter, width is 61.6 meter, height and width are same, right? The flight deck area is 12,500 square meter. Displacement is 42,800 meter. Displacement means how much of weight it is displacing when it is placed in water, right? That means what is the weight of the ship? That is 42,800 tons. Okay. It can house 1,600 people inside it. That means the crew is of 1,600 people. 1,600 people are required to run the ship and all. Okay, there are 2,300 compartments. Max speed is 28 knots, which is provided by the General Electric engine, right? And cruising speed is 18 knots. Cruising speed means the speed at which it normally runs. Okay. Endurance 75,000 miles. 75,000 nautical miles is its endurance. Endurance means the limit up to which it can go without the need of refueling. And believe me, it can go from Kochi to Brazil without the need of refueling. Okay, that means it provides a great naval superiority in the form of like we do not have to refuel itself. We can stay in the blue waters for a very long period of time, and that is why it is going to help India in its blue water policy. Now, what is blue water policy? Blue water policy means when a country is trying to stay in the high seas, right? High seas are not under any country's jurisdiction. High seas are beyond 200 nautical miles, okay, beyond the exclusive economic zone of a country. So if we have ability to stay in the high seas for a very long period of time, then that is called blue water policy. Okay, so and it can, the estimated cost is around 20,000 crores. Okay. Now let's look at the capability of the ship. The weapons, the capability is basically defined by the weapons it can carry, right? So it can carry indigenous built advanced light helicopters, okay. Then American built MH-60 sorry. This is MH-60, it is an American built, okay, a multi-role Romeo chopper, basically submarine hunter. These are submarine hunters which can attack submarines with torpedoes, right? The second type of helicopter that it will be carrying is Kamov 31. It is a Russian helicopter. Okay, it is a Russian helicopter and the fighter jets. Now the fighter jets that it will be carrying are MiG-29. It is also Russian made. Okay, so these are the three kind of fighter jets or aeroplanes or aircrafts this INS Vikrant is going to carry, and it will provide us with great capability. Like we have already Submarine Hunter, and this Kamov 31 is a very light helicopter used for multi-role operations inside the sea. Okay. Ship grade steel has been made by Steel Authority of India Limited and Defense Research and Development Lab, basically, which is under DRDO. It is powered by General Electric LM2500 engines, and it has the highest speed of 728 knots with cruise speed of 18 knots and endurance of 7500 nautical miles. Okay, which means it can make a voyage from Kochi to Brazil without the need of refueling. Okay, and it has a reverse osmosis plant. Reverse osmosis is reverse osmosis means the process by which we make fresh water from seawater by desalination. Okay. So it makes fresh water from seawater and its capacity is 4 lakh liters every day, right? It will provide the much needed blue water capability to Navy. It will provide the much needed blue water capability to Navy. Now, I hope you have understood the whole analysis. I'll be jotting down the points again as to what kind of understanding we developed through this lecture. The first was the induction of INS Vikrant. Then we tried to understand the history of INS, the aircraft carriers. Okay, aircraft carriers. Then we tried to understand history of the design and capability of INS Vikrant. Okay, then we tried to understand what are the specific capabilities of INS Vikrant, and that is how we concluded. And we also talked a bit about blue water policy. Okay, now we also talked about blue water policy. I hope you understood this. If you have any doubts whatsoever, kindly comment your doubts in the comment section. I regularly check them and I'll answer to them, every single comment. Okay.